let's go back a little bit. When did you first decide that you wanted this as your crazy career?
Yeah, because I know it's not a hard choice, is it? I went to school for film production and acting, knowing that I wanted to be in the world in general. And it wasn't until after I graduated that I decided that performing what I wanted to be on that side of the camera. I actually went and worked for a boutique production studio
Hmm.
right out of college, and at the same time got into stunt work. And I was a professional stunt woman for 2.5 years, and then that got my feet wet, and it basically introduced me to what it's like to be on a set. And one day I just said, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. I'm tired of watching it, and I'm ready to start it. And then I started studying with my current acting coach, John Markland, who has continued my studies behind the scenes of everything that I do.
In being a stunt double, I know that you work with Rachel McAdams, one of my
Yeah.
friends, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
She's amazing.
Rachel's such a sweetie pie.
Yeah, she actually helped me get my first agent. She is honestly, she is a gem in this business. I wish more people were like her.
But
Just so
a lot of people started their careers as as stunt doubles and things like that.
Mhm.
And I know Channing Tatum was also a dancer and a choreographer. But
Yeah,
any door that's open to you, I tell this to my students, any door that's open, take it because you're going to get on set.
exactly. And that was honestly, that was my goal. And I have people asking me now, do you wish that you had spent those 2, 3 years working towards your career in acting instead? I say, no, I wouldn't take any of it back. My goal in doing that was just to get on-set experience. And I just happened to have a Tom Cruise like background where I have a death wish, such an adrenaline junkie that it was very easy for me to get certifications and things. And so being a stunt double, it's like VIP front row seat to the action, no pun intended.
Movies are a
um,
lot different,
yeah.
than you think. I mean, as a little
Oh
girl
yeah.
watching, I want to be, and then you realize how hard it is to do what needs to be done.
And how much time it takes. I think that might be the number one misconception that people who I talk to that aren't at all anywhere near the business are surprised to learn, is how much time it takes and how much effort goes into zero point 0.2 seconds of screen time. And stunts are a big part of that for sure.
Do you like a role that's athletic?
Yes. I'm very drawn to physical roles now, especially because I enjoy doing my own stunts now, having that background as a professional stunt woman. There's only been one time so far that I have not done a stunt on my own, and that's just because it was physically impossible. I didn't have the training in it, but I do my own wire stunts and combat, and I've done sword fighting, and I grew up racing horses, not
Wow.
racing, sorry, showing horses. And so I can do all the equestrian stuff. I recently merged two skills and am now certified and trained in sword fighting on horseback. So it just keeps getting like
So you could be
more
a
and more
knight.
fun.
You could be a knight Templar, if you needed to be.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're going for.
That would be the dream.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
it seems to me that, and in the best terms, tomboys
Hmm.
make the best actresses because of you're fearless, and it's not a matter of being scared of getting scraped or a pie in your face. You remind me a lot of Lucille Ball, in that way, and
What a compliment. Wow.
because your
Um,
comedy is so broad, and you're
Thank
fearless
you.
like she was.
Thank you. That's a very interesting observation that I have never heard before, but am definitely inclined to agree with. And I think that the fearlessness probably has something to do with it, and maybe also a hint of this is something that I strongly advocate for. And when I mentor younger artists or people wanting to be actors, first thing I tell them is you have to be okay with getting ugly. Like there's this just I don't know if I'd call it a trend, but there's this attitude these days for females in the industry, that they just want to look pretty and glamorous all the time. And I tell them, that's not real though. When you go home and you take all that off, who are you really? That's what people need to and want to see. And I think that, the action and the getting down and dirty is probably part of that. If you spend enough of your time doing that, you just forget about what it looks like, and you're focused on what it feels like.
In following through on what you said, I mean, there are female actors that I know that want to get down. I mean, it's a desire to get covered in oil or mud or whatever, because they love the grit of acting.
Yeah. I mean, actually feeling and doing is way different than having to pretend like you're feeling or doing. I mean, there's so many layers and elements to add to a character that any chance I have to actually do the thing, even if it doesn't end up being on screen, I really feel like it lends to the character. And that's why you hear these stories of directors telling their leads, weird things to do to go out and prep, like go to the middle of the woods and scream naked and pretend to be a wolf. Like, that'll help you get into the mindset. Like, no one's ever going to see that stuff, but they see it on screen when you become this character, and they don't even think about how you became them.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about Ultimate Movers in a moment, but I just love this backstory, and it's important to know that it's not an easy road to take once you decide to become an actress or being in this business, because there's this balance between show and business, and you have to understand the business of it too, because I think that's where most people fail, is they don't know how to value themselves to agents and to people.
I think that you hit the nail right on the head with that. And actually, I feel like I have met a lot of artists who either put 100% of their time and energy into the performance and craft side and know nothing about the business side. And I've also met people who know 100% how to execute the business side, but don't do anything for their craft. And those are the people that, sometimes unfortunately get more chances than the people that only focus on their craft, because they're so good at the business side. But you really do have to know both. I feel like you have to know or at least get to know the business side at least well enough to be able to choose the right team, choose the right people to be around you, so that they can then take on that mantle. But you also have to be really good at deciding and communicating who you are and how you want to be received by the world.
You've got to be able to show, as an actor, you could do drama, you can do this, you can do that, you can do the comedy. But if you get pigeonholed, that's all you're ever going to do. And that's why picking your own projects is important.
It is. It really is. And I think a lot of artists don't realize they have that power, the power of saying no. And I've said no to one or two bigger things that, another artist might have thought you're crazy for saying no to that. And fortunately, I ended up being correct about the red flags that I saw both times. And I don't have any regrets at all.
Early in your career, did you do modeling?
No. I have done photo shoots, but, just for press mainly. And there was a time, my best friend is a professional photographer, so I get used a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of photos out there circulating she's a fine art photographer. So I have discovered there are a lot of photos on the internet from, me being the muse for her work. But mainly I was just receptive to it because at the beginning of my career, anytime I could be in front of a camera, I felt like even photographically, it helped me, if I was in front of a camera a lot, then I'd be more comfortable in front of it whenever I was filming. And
There's a lot of
forget
actresses.
it's there.
A lot of actresses hate looking at themselves, hate their photographs.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you have to
I
get
do.
over that, I would imagine.
I do too. It used to be a lot worse, but I think I've become a lot more comfortable recently, in recent years. And honestly, this is not a plug, but I think that I would credit it a lot to John Markman, my coach. He has a really good way of training a person to leave their body and just, this is just something we're using. It's a tool, and you realize its strengths and its weaknesses, and being able to look at yourself that way instead of in any type of, vain or critical way is a long process that probably never ends. But I'm further along down the line now than I was a few years ago.
Well, now you're in a new comedy. Tell me a little bit about the audition process for that and your part.
Sure.
Role.
Yeah. Movers Ultimate is like a 1990s style comedy feature film. I kind of compare it all the time with people to like Road Trip, American Pie, that type of humor. It's very raunchy.
It's a frat house film.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because it's basically about the community that exists within these tight-knit groups of guys that work for moving companies who have to move people in and out of their homes. And our director and writer, he wrote it as well, Ben Rood, he actually worked for a moving company. So he wrote it over several years about like pretty much every character is based on a real person. which
is uncomfortable.
After people watch the movie, they're gonna be like, what? But that's what he says. And funny enough, after the trailer coming out and after we had our red carpet premiere just a few weeks ago, the producers invited, we had a lot of moving companies reach out asking if they could come. And so they had like a little raffle and invited a moving company to come. And afterwards, they just went on and on about how accurate it is. We're all just like, really? But that's great. I mean, that's awesome to hear. And they found it hysterical. But the audition process, funny enough, the audition process happened in 2019. And there were, I remember 2 rounds of auditions. There might have been 3. They kind of become a blur after a while. But there were definitely, I remember 2 distinctly. And I also remember having a conversation after Ben called me and offered me the role about my character, Susan, because I was instantly comparing this script to those raunchy comedies that we talked about. And like I said, I had the message in the front of my mind, how, I would like to be portrayed. And my character on paper was very open to interpretation as far as, she's the love interest in the film. Yeah. She gets called the hot girl a lot. And so I had a discussion with him, like, how do you see Susan being? Is she running around in skimpy clothes for no reason? I asked him all these questions because at the time I actually, if his answers were things that wouldn't lend to the story, then I might have reconsidered. But to Ben's credit, he answered it, in a completely different direction and explained to me how Susan is, she's like the gravity of the plot. She basically brings everybody down to earth. And it's really funny because all of the scenes that she's in, you almost feel this like deflation happening because everything is so like chaotic, bouncing off the walls. It's just like one-liner after one-liner after one-liner, and then Susan enters the room and it's like calm. She basically brings everybody back down to reality, and I loved that about her character. And so from that point forward, we just launched with that and basically explored all the different ways that I realized after a certain point that pretty much most of the lessons that happen for the characters in the film are channeled through Susan. There's one that is not, but she, you know, she really lends a moral to the story that can't come from anywhere else. So I absolutely love that about her.
This portion of Screen Chatter is presented by VP Dental. Check out our great dental plans starting at just $16 per month.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. Why would you do that?
Probably okay isn't okay. Call a cab, a car, or a friend.
Good choice.
I have a few scripts that I've written now, and I really, I think, realized my power and my ability as a storyteller on more levels than I knew that I had. And I completely understand now why a good number of actors end up, even if they stay in front of the camera, they'll also go behind the camera, because it's not really about control, but it's more about just being able to tell the story the way that you feel it should be told, or the way that you imagine it in your head. I really want to do more of that.
Well, and I think that an actor who becomes a director is more empathetic to his actors and crew, because
Yes.
he's been through it, or she's been through it.
Absolutely. I definitely see that. And when I worked for a small production studio right after college, I got to see that a little bit more as well. So I already entered the acting sphere with that mindset a little bit, even though it was more on the commercial side. I have been on the other side of the casting chair, and I've been the one, deciding how things are being edited. So I see the power in that, and also how every choice makes a difference.
Yeah.
It really, really does. Every little choice makes a difference, and it's just so complex and beautiful in that way. And it really, really matters who you choose to be the team on something, because everybody down to wardrobe and makeup are part of the story that gets told. Nothing is insignificant at all, and I love that.
Yeah. See, again, you boil it down to the very what we call the crucible. The white hot truth is you're a storyteller,
Exactly.
and it hurts when you're not telling stories.
Yes, it really, really does. It does. If I have a day where I'm not, writing or anything, it feels so weird. I just sometimes will, I think it was Jordan Peele. Was it Jordan Peele? Yeah, I think he recently said something like, even if you open up Final Draft and you stare at the blank screen for 8 hours, you're still writing.
Technically.
And I felt that right here.
Yeah.
That's what happens more days than not.
Yeah, but again, you've got to get it out. I mean, you're one of
Yeah.
those artists that have to get it out. Now, outside of being, the America's Best Actress. Sorry, that's a spit
Can I
take.
get that on a t-shirt, please?
Yeah. What are your hobbies? What do you like to do when you're not in front of the camera? Do you go out and relieve yourself by hiking and biking and cooking and stuff like that?
That's a great question. I still ride horses, just as a hobby. And about 8 months ago, I started studying karate as a hobby. And so I'm now a purple belt.
Wow.
That actually takes up more time than I ever thought I would be able to offer to it. But when you love something, you find time for it. You create time for it. And that's my current hobby right now.
It also teaches you focus.
Yes, so much focus and discipline comes from martial arts. Honestly, that was more of why I started it than the physical side. The physical side is just a bonus to me. For me, it was more about, I need something that keeps me dedicated and focused. And that might have been a product of the pandemic. I have no idea how I got there. I just woke up out of bed one day and said, I need to study karate. And knowing nothing about it, I just felt drawn to it. So that is currently the hobby that I'm pursuing. But who knows? Maybe I'll play a character that.
Well, I'm sure. You know, when I was doing extra work way back when, and they would, can you ride a horse? Everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen a horse, you know, and here I am. You know, so I mean, you just do what you have to do, but
yeah,
you know.
That's a funny thing that's another thing that I tell people that I'm mentoring is like, be careful what you put on your resume. Be careful what you tell people that you can do, because they will make you do it one day.
One day it'll come back at you really hard. Yeah. It is an absolute delight to talk to you and get to know you.
You as well. Thank you so much.
I think it's very insightful to talk to somebody who has been through it, you know, and seen things from, you know, a perspective that a lot of actresses don't have.
Yeah, everyone's journey is different. You think, you know, there's a misconception that there's a pattern, there's a roadmap of everything you're supposed to do. No one's story is the same.
No.
Everything happens differently. And so you just gotta find what works for you.